Welcome to our channel HASHMICLINICS.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are absolutely thrilled to have you with us today.
We really are.
Yeah, because today we are exploring a really fascinating set of personal, highly detailed notes compiled by Professor Dr. Rifat Hashmi.
Right. These are incredible documents.
They really are. And these notes, they focus entirely on one single, incredibly versatile plant from the Soraceae family.
Botanically known as Anemopsis californica.
Exactly, Anemopsis californica. But to the people who relied on it day in and day out, historically it was simply called Yerba Mansa.
Or just the household herb.
Right, the household herb. So our mission today for you listening is to decode these really dense botanical, folklore, and medical observations.
To figure out how one plant does so much.
Yeah, we want to understand why this specific plant was considered basically a multi-purpose powerhouse. I mean, treating everything from a bruised knee to an overexcited heart.
Which is quite a range.
To put it mildly, to set the stage for you, imagine opening up that one junk drawer in your kitchen.
Everyone has one.
You know the one? It's got the stray batteries, the rubber bands, maybe a random Allen wrench from furniture you built 5 years ago.
Yep.
Imagine reaching in there, grabbing a roll of duct tape, and using it to fix a leaky pipe under your sink.
Sure. That makes perfect sense.
Right. Mechanical fix for a mechanical problem.
Yeah.
But then imagine taking that exact same roll of duct tape and somehow using it to cure a terrible sinus infection.
Which is where it gets weird.
Yeah, exactly. And then, just for good measure, you use that same duct tape to calm down your dog when the doorbell rings.
It completely defies the entire logic of how we categorize tools and medicines today, really.
Yeah, because we are so conditioned to expect, one hyper-specific tool for one highly specific job.
Right. A wrench turns a bolt.
An aspirin blocks a pain receptor.
Exactly. But when we step back into historical botany and traditional medicine through notes like these,
that highly categorized modern toolbox just gets thrown completely out the window.
It really does. We are forced to look at a medical landscape that views biology not as isolated, separate parts, but as a deeply interconnected web.
Right. And that nickname, the household herb, it really implies a profound level of everyday reliance.
Yeah, it was the thing you kept on hand because it seemingly fixed whatever went wrong.
Which brings us to the first section of the notes. They explicitly start by highlighting the plant's external resume, basically.
Yeah.
Its folklore and historical uses for blunt force trauma.
Right, the first aid application.
Yeah, the text lists it as being highly useful in treating blows, falls, cuts, bruises, and sprains.
So basically, if you trip and fall down the stairs, this plant was historically your first line of defense.
Exactly. And it makes sense as a physical first aid application. But then, and this is where I got stuck, the text casually mentions, in the very same breath, that its historical resume also includes being used as a diuretic.
And as a treatment for malaria.
Right. The jump from a scraped knee to a systemic mosquito-borne parasitic infection is just, it's jarring.
It is jarring for anyone used to modern medicine. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm definitely struggling with that jump. If this plant is primarily used for physical blunt force trauma, how does it also end up being used as a diuretic, which affects the kidneys, or to treat something as severe as malaria?
It's a huge shift.
It feels like we are looking at two completely different medicines. Going back to my junk drawer analogy, it really is like comparing standard duct tape to a highly specialized antibiotic.
Well, we have to look at how historical practitioners actually observed the body. Before the advent of modern blood tests and cellular biology.
They didn't have microscopes for this stuff.
Right. Doctors relied on intense clinical observation of underlying physical states. And Professor Hashmi's notes actually give us a massive clue here.
Oh, about the arnica comparison.
Yes. The notes suggest we compare Anemopsis californica to another very famous botanical, arnica, which is abbreviated in the text as ARN.
Right. Arnica is something a lot of people still keep in their medicine cabinets today, actually, for deep bruises and muscle soreness after a tough workout.
It is the absolute gold standard for trauma. Now think about what a severe bruise actually is.
It's trapped blood, right?
Exactly. It is trapped, stagnant blood pooling under the skin because of a traumatic impact.
Okay.
Historical practitioners saw that applying arnica, or in this case, our household herb, could efficiently resolve that localized stagnation.
So the plant helped the body clear out the trapped fluids and reduce the swelling.
Right. And from there, they applied that exact same mechanical logic to the rest of the body. They asked themselves, well, if this plant can clear trapped, stagnant blood in a dark bruise, What happens when a patient has malaria?
Wait, because malaria causes massive systemic issues, right? Patients get terrible fevers.
Yes, and historically, doctors knew it caused severe stagnation and swelling in internal organs.
Like the liver and spleen.
Exactly. So they were looking at a body overwhelmed by trapped toxins and internal stagnation.
Oh, I see. They reasoned that if the plant could flesh out the localized trauma of a bruise, perhaps it could flesh out systemic trauma.
You've got it. That explains the diuretic application as well,
Because a diuretic forces the kidneys to produce more urine.
which effectively flushes excess fluid and toxins out of the body. They weren't seeing a cut in malaria as completely unrelated diseases.
They were seeing two different versions of a body struggling with stagnation.
Right. And applying a broad-spectrum regulator to clear the blockages.
That is fascinating. That holistic approach is really the absolute foundation of historical botanical medicine, isn't it?
It is. They observed the underlying action in this case, moving fluids and resolving stagnation, and applied it wherever they saw that specific dysfunction.
And that observation of how it regulates the body's internal systems leads us directly to its absolute core clinical value.
Because while the external first aid applications are impressive, Dr. Hashmi's notes make it very clear that Anemopsis californica has a distinct primary medical identity.
Yeah, the terminology in the notes gets incredibly specific here. The text explicitly defines this plant as a mucous membrane medicine.
Which completely shifts focus from external cuts and bruises.
Right, to acting as an internal regulator for the body's plumbing.
And the mucous membranes are the critical barrier tissues. I mean, they line every single cavity in our bodies that is exposed to the outside environment.
So the notes state that the plant's chief value is found in treating catarrhal states.
Right, catarrhal states.
And for anyone listening who might not be familiar with that somewhat archaic term, a catarrhal state is essentially that awful, heavy, stuffy sensation in your head and throat.
We've all been there.
Yeah, think of the worst head cold you've ever had, where the pressure behind your eyes is just throbbing, and your entire face feels like a water balloon that's about to burst.
That is catarrh.
That is catarrh. And the text gets remarkably granular about this, highlighting its use for sinusitis, pharyngeal catarrh in the throat, and specifically chronic forms of inflammation of the Schneiderian membrane.
Which is a brilliant piece of anatomical detail from the notes.
What is the Schneiderian membrane exactly?
That is the highly vascular mucous membrane that directly lines the nasal cavity. When you are suffering from severe sinusitis, that is the exact tissue that is inflamed, swollen, and causing that agonizing facial pressure.
Wow. And the notes also mention that it treats profuse mucus or serous discharges. Now, mucus makes sense, but what exactly is a serous discharge in this context?
So a serous discharge is that thin, clear, incredibly watery fluid.
Like when your nose just won't stop running.
Exactly. When you have a cold and your nose is just constantly uncontrollably dripping like a leaky faucet rather than producing thick mucus, that is a serous discharge.
Gotcha.
It means the tissue barrier is essentially weeping fluid.
Okay, that perfectly sets up the next phrase in the notes, which really caught my eye. The text mentions that alongside this profuse discharge, there is considerable relaxation of the Schneiderian membrane.
Ah, yes.
Relaxation?
I really need to unpack that, because does that mean the plant just dries your nose out like a modern over-the-counter allergy pill? Or is it doing something structurally different to those relaxed tissues?
We really have to translate the word relaxation from its historical medical context here, because today it means a good thing.
Right. Today, if you hear the word relaxation, you think of a positive state. A day at the spa, releasing tension.
Sure.
In historical medicine, particularly when talking about tissues and membranes, considerable relaxation is a very bad thing.
Oh, really?
Yes, it means a complete loss of tone. The tissue has become compromised, boggy, and stretched out. It is losing its structural integrity.
Oh, wow. So it's not relaxed like a muscle resting after a workout.
Not at all.
It's relaxed like an old rubber band that has been stretched out for way too long.
Exactly. It has completely lost its snap.
So it's failing to do its primary job, which is acting as a firm retaining barrier.
Right.
And because it has lost that structural snap, it's just leaking all that watery, serious fluid. The internal floodgates are essentially broken.
That rubber band analogy is the perfect way to visualize it, because a modern antihistamine today often acts as a simple drying agent.
Right, you take a pill and it just stops the fluid.
It basically turns off the fluid faucet. which can leave your nasal passages feeling incredibly brittle, dry, and uncomfortable.
Yeah, that awful dried out feeling.
The notes imply that Anemopsis californica does not work that way. It targets the actual compromised, relaxed structural state of the inflamed membrane itself.
So it fixes the rubber band.
Yes, it acts as a profound tissue regulator to restore the normal, healthy tone to that stretched-out rubber band.
That makes so much more sense.
It repairs the broken floodgate so the tissue can function normally again, rather than just temporarily shutting off the water supply.
It is restoring the structural integrity of the tissue itself.
Yeah.
And because its chief clinical identity is in mucous membrane medicine, its work obviously doesn't just stop at the nose and throat.
No, it follows the anatomy.
Right. The notes actually follow this anatomical trail downward, tracking the continuous line of mucous membranes into completely different bodily systems.
Because if you understand the mechanism of what a plant does to one specific type of tissue...
Restoring tone to a relaxed mucous membrane.
Exactly. Then you can track its clinical effects anywhere those exact same membranes exist in the human body.
Which is why we move from the head and sinuses straight down into the digestive and urinary tracts.
Right.
The text details clinical uses for flatulence, promoting digestion, treating diarrhea, and even treating urethritis, which is inflammation of the urethra.
It's all the same plumbing.
Following the plumbing makes logical sense based on the tissue type. But then the text takes a hard pivot to its most surprising application yet, which is the cardiovascular system.
Yes, the notes introduce its application for the heart.
Dr. Hashmi's notes explicitly recommend it in heart disease, specifically for treating violent palpitation of the heart.
And acting as a quieting agent.
Right. The text describes the plant as a quieting agent when unduly excited. Now, I have to push back here, because I am struggling to see the connection.
It seems like a stretch.
We established the mucous membrane logic. But the heart is not a mucous membrane.
No, it's muscle.
You can't just say a sinus medicine fixes violent heart palpitations. It's like hiring a plumber to fix your sink. And while they're there, they rewire your electrical panel and calm down your anxious dog.
That's a great way to put it.
Are we sure this isn't just a historical placebo effect where they threw the household herb at every single problem?
It definitely pushes the limits of believability. If you view the body as a collection of separate, isolated machines. But we have to look at the physiological cascade of systemic distress.
Okay, unpack that cascade for me.
Let's look at a fire alarm metaphor. If a massive fire alarm is blaring inside an office building, the people inside are naturally going to panic.
Sure, their heart rates will spike.
Right. They will be in a state of extreme distress. Now, the people panicking aren't the source of the fire.
They are just reacting to the environmental alarm.
Exactly. So when a patient is suffering from chronic severe catarrh, debilitating diarrhea, or systemic inflammation like malaria,
Their internal barriers are failing.
their mucous membranes are failing. The body's immune and nervous systems are on incredibly high alert. The internal fire alarms are blaring constantly.
Oh, wow. The body is just under immense prolonged stress.
Right, so the violent heart palpitations described in the text aren't necessarily a primary structural heart defect.
They are a secondary symptom.
Yes, a symptom of the sheer panic the body is experiencing because its primary defense systems are compromised.
So by fixing the tissue-level alarms in the gut, the urethra, and the sinuses, by restoring the tone to those failing barriers, the environmental panic subsides.
Exactly. When the body's internal alarms finally stop blaring, the heart automatically slows down.
The plant acts as a systemic quieting agent because it removes the underlying source of the distress.
Yes. And this holistic cascading mechanism is highly likely why Dr. Hashmi's notes specifically recommend comparing Anemopsis californica to another very specific botanical.
Oh, Piper methysticum.
Yes, abbreviated in the notes as PIPM.
Do we know what Piper methysticum actually refers to in modern terms?
We do, and it is a fascinating comparison. You probably know it by its common global name, kava.
Wait, kava.
Yes. Kava is world-renowned for its profound, relaxing, anti-anxiety, and nervous system quieting properties. It is a heavy-hitting, systemic relaxant.
Wow. By explicitly instructing practitioners to compare the household herb to kava, the notes are signaling that this isn't just a minor side effect.
Not at all.
Its ability to calm an excited heart and soothe an overwrought nervous system is a primary, highly significant part of its clinical profile.
It is functioning as a full-body reset button.
The intersection of physical tissue repair and profound nervous system regulation.
It's incredible.
But if this plant is acting as a systemic reset button for everything from a profusely dripping nose to violent heart palpitations, how were historical practitioners actually getting it into the body?
The dosages.
Because the notes reveal some surprising and honestly somewhat esoteric details about its administration.
We see a fascinating blend of practical pharmacy and historical philosophy here.
Yeah, on the practical side, the text prescribes historical doses primarily as a tincture.
Right, liquid extracts.
It mentions the plant being used in all potencies, taken internally. It also mentions it being applied locally as a spray.
That makes perfect sense for the nasal catarrh.
Right, you would use a topical spray to deliver the medicine directly onto that Boggy Schneiderian membrane.
Exactly.
But then right underneath these clinical dosages in standard medical terms, there is a categorization with the heading planets.
Yes. A sudden, unexpected shift into the realm of medical astrology.
Yeah, the notes explicitly list the planets Venus and Mars.
Which is wild to read in a medical document.
It really is.
Yeah.
They also reiterate a crucial caveat from the author, stating that while the plant is not yet proven, it has been heavily relied upon and found clinically useful.
Right.
But I mean, we were just talking about the mechanical logic of tissue tone and localized nasal sprays.
Yeah.
And now we are talking about a diarrhea and malaria treatment that is somehow governed by Venus and Mars.
It seems like quite a leap.
How do astrological planets end up in the exact same medical document as clinical urethritis?
To our modern science-driven sensibilities, it looks like magic accidentally got mixed in with the biology.
Yeah, it feels completely out of place.
But we really have to understand the historical framework of energetics.
Energetics?
Yes. Before we had the periodic table of elements, or, an understanding of chemical receptor sites in the brain, early practitioners needed a universal language to classify how a medicine behaved.
Oh, I see.
They needed a shorthand to describe a plant's personality and its physiological impact on the human body.
Okay.
And the planet served as that sophisticated classification system.
So they weren't literally casting spells or waiting for the planets to align to pick the leaves?
No. They were using the planets as broad archetypal categories for medical action. Think of it as a diagnostic framework.
Okay, so how does Mars fit into that framework?
Well, Mars traditionally represented the archetype of heat, blood, iron, and combat.
Which links flawlessly to the plant's first aid application for blows, falls, bruises, and sprains.
Exactly. Those are literal combat injuries.
Right. The Mars energetic dictates the plant's aggressive ability to move stagnant blood and rapidly heal physical trauma.
You've got it. Now, Venus, on the other hand, represented a completely different physiological archetype.
What was Venus associated with?
Venus was associated with the throat, the kidneys, the regulation of bodily fluids, and an overarching sense of soothing, cooling harmony.
Wow, that maps perfectly to the rest of the plant's resume.
It really does.
Venus explains its use as a diuretic flushing the kidneys,
Right.
its targeted treatment of pharyngeal catarrh in the throat, and its profound ability to act as a quieting agent for an unduly excited heart.
Exactly. Venus brings the internal harmony after Mars does the heavy lifting with the trauma.
It shows how ancient medical systems mapped a plant's vital properties right alongside its physical biology.
By listing both Mars and Venus, Dr. Hashmi's notes are telling the practitioner a very clear story.
That this plant spans two entirely different therapeutic worlds.
Yes. It possesses the active, fiery, injury-healing principle of Mars.
And the soothing, fluid-regulating, calming principle of Venus.
It bridges the sudden trauma of a deep cut and the profound, slow relaxation of an overwrought nervous system.
It really is the ultimate multi-tool, holding the body together from the outside in.
A single plant addressing the full spectrum of human distress.
So bringing this deep dive to a close, let's take a step back and look at the incredible, multifaceted profile of Anemopsis californica that we've unpacked today.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. We started with the concept of a junk drawer multi-tool, known simply as the household herb, heavily relied upon to treat the immediate physical trauma of bruises and sprains.
Which was the aggressive, blood-moving Mars aspect of the plant's profile.
Right. And then we journeyed inward, discovering its true underlying identity as a master regulator of the mucous membranes.
We saw how it doesn't just act like a modern antihistamine to dry out a stuffy nose.
No, instead it mechanically restores the essential tone and structural snap of the compromised, Boggy Schneiderian membrane.
And that localized action on a very specific tissue type explained its cascading ability to treat conditions all the way down the digestive and urinary tracts.
Resolving everything from severe flatulence to urethritis.
Exactly.
And finally, we saw how soothing all of that internal plumbing, turning off the blazing fire alarms of systemic inflammation, results in a profound quieting of the nervous system.
Capable of treating violent heart palpitations.
The venous aspect, bringing the final harmony. It beautifully bridges the gap between treating a bruised knee and an overexcited heart, all while being classified under these ancient cosmic frequencies.
It really highlights a way of looking at human health that we have largely abandoned.
Yeah.
The ability to see the deep underlying connections rather than just playing whack-a-mole with isolated symptoms.
And that is the real value of this knowledge for you, the listener. The next time you're dealing with a modern problem, whether it's the sheer mental exhaustion of information overload, a stubborn head cold that just won't quit, or even a simple scraped knee.
Think about this humble plant.
Yeah, think about how early botanical medicine relied on intense, incredibly patient observation of a single herb to solve complex, body-wide puzzles.
They didn't have specialized diagnostic machines.
They just paid really, really close attention to how things connected beneath the surface.
They observed the natural patterns of the world and elegantly mapped them onto the internal patterns of the human body.
That leads to a final provocative thought I want to leave you with today, based directly on Professor Hashmi's text.
Oh, about the unproven aspect.
Yeah. The notes specifically state that Anemopsis californica is not yet proven. And yet, despite lacking whatever formal, rigid proof the medical era required, it was trusted immensely for an incredibly diverse, complex array of clinical conditions.
Simply because people observed that it worked.
Exactly. It earned the title of the household herb. In our modern world of highly specialized single-symptom pills, where we have a different, brightly colored plastic bottle for every minor ache, sniffle, or palpitation, it makes you wonder.
It really does.
What other unproven household herbs might be sitting right in our backyards, holding a dozen different forgotten secrets, acting as the perfect multi-tool that we simply stopped looking for?
Food for thought.
Until next time, keep exploring the connections.
Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi is a distinguished homeopathic physician, educator, and researcher with over 4 decades of clinical and teaching experience. He is widely respected for his deep command of materia medica, repertory, and constitutional prescribing, combined with a practical, patient-centered approach. Dr. Hashmi has dedicated his career to training generations of homeopathic doctors, blending classical principles with modern clinical insight. He is also known for his innovative work in digital homeopathy, developing educational content, clinical tools, and AI-assisted systems to enhance remedy selection and case analysis. With a strong commitment to ethical practice and lifelong learning, Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi continues to guide, inspire, and elevate the standards of homeopathic education and patient care.